If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the Property Rebel with your host Arsh. And in today's session I'm going to be talking to you about the ABC plan. So before we get into that, I want to say a quick hello to all new subscribers, all new listeners all around the world. Hopefully you're really taking some inspiration away from the Property Rebel podcast. And if you are, please feel free to leave us a review on the podcast stores, or more importantly, share it with your social media friends. And let's see if we can get this as an even bigger platform and a medium for your friends to listen to. So let's get straight into it. What is the ABC plan and why am I talking about this today? Well, I received an email. I won't name any names, but I know that the person is an avid listener to the Property Rebel podcast. So first I want to say thank you very much to the anonymous emailer. And they said, Arsh, I've seen this property and it's in a great location and I believe we can do this with this property. And I thought, okay, this is interesting because this could be a really good talking point, especially for the listeners on the podcast. What I really love about property is the fact that me and you could both look at the same property and come out with completely different conclusions as to what we're going to do with that property and how it's going to serve our purpose. So when I got this email, and let's just call him Mr. X, and he goes, I've seen this property and here's what I'd like to do. And he goes, well, my first intention is to potentially run it as a 6-bed HMO. And I thought, okay, that's interesting because I looked at the floor plan and I said, yeah, okay, I kind of see where that vision is. And then he goes, okay, my other plan is that I then want to try and potentially run it as a 5-bed HMO plus a studio flat, a self-contained studio flat. He goes, I've got other plans where I could convert the whole building into 5 self-contained flats. Then another part of it is that I could run it as a 7-bed HMO or an 8-bed HMO. Naturally, as a result of creating the 7th and 8th bedroom, it will have a detrimental effect on the bedroom sizes as if we were to run it as, let's say, a 5 or 6 bedroom HMO. So there's lots of different options there. And I thought, okay, this is interesting because he's put together 4 or 5 different proposals. Now, when I say the ABC plan, this is exactly what it is. When I look at a property, I want to know roughly what's my plan A for this property, what my intentions of this property. And then I always need to have at least 2 backup plans. The reason being is that if plan A doesn't go to plan, and let's face it, it won't always go to plan, but there will be scenarios where you haven't been able to do whatever you wanted to, and it could have been because A, you require planning permission, B, because legislation has changed, and C, because the property doesn't allow it to, or you've had some external advice from architects, planning consultants, etc., that it doesn't work. So you really need to have your plan B and your plan C. So I believe that this guy has got multiple options, but then when I looked at it, I thought, well, in actual fact, there is only really one deliverable here, because when we look at a property, well, when I appraise a property in the location, the first thing that I want to do is understand the legislation or the local guidelines within that area. Now, the reason why I say the local guidelines in that area is because is that area an Article 4 area? If it's an Article 4 area straight away, then I'm going to require planning permission to convert a single let into a multi-let. So my first tip for you is understand your local area, understand what the local authority are requiring. And not every area in the UK is Article 4. Unfortunately, I still haven't found a map of all Article 4 areas in the UK. I believe there may be one in existence, but yet I still haven't found it. So first thing that I would do, always check to see if that area is an Article 4 location, especially if you're converting a single let into multi-let. If the property is already a multi-let and it may be a failing multi-let because it's struggling, because you've got the wrong tenant type in there, that it's been charged a low rent and therefore the tenants are enjoying the low rent but high outgoings, these are all things that can be changed. So if it's already multi-let and it's in an Article 4 area, providing that you can confirm that it was a multi-let before Article 4 came into use or come into play, then you can benefit what is considered grandfather rights. Now, grandfather rights is basically showing that it was multi-let before Article 4 came in. You can demonstrate this by the council tax, showing that you were paying the bills for it as a HMO before Article 4. So let's just use this as an example. On the 1st of February 2021, Article 4 comes into a area. Now, if I'm looking to buy a property in that area and it's already a multi-let, I need to show that it was an it was a HMO before the 1st of February. Now, I can do this by showing them the bills. I can do this by showing the council all the tenancy agreements. I can show them by preferably a HMO license. If it's got a HMO license, that is obviously the best thing that you can show the local authority. If it's got planning permission for a HMO, again, that's great evidence to show the council to say it was a HMO before the 1st of Feb, so I can continue running it as a HMO. If it's not a HMO, I'll then need to go through the planning process to convert it into HMO. Now, the reason why I talk about planning so specifically in this podcast is because, is there any guarantee that you're going to get a planning permission? And I'm going to relate this back to the email that I received. So if you look at the first option was that it's currently a 6-bed HMO and he wants to continue running it as a 6-bed HMO. I thought, okay, well, straight away, even if it is an Article 4 area, providing that he can show evidence of that, that's fine. That's no issue. So plan A, fine, tick. Plan B, C, D, and let's call it E. Now, a little bit more aggressive, because you've got to remember every strategy or every style, let's call it strategy, that he's proposed has its own cash flow model. When we talk about cash flow, so a 6-bed HMO will produce a certain amount of cash flow. A 5-bed HMO and a studio flat will produce another level of cash flow. A 7-bed HMO will produce another level of cash flow. 8-bed HMO will produce more cash flow. Or will it? Because you're reducing the sizes of the rooms, so therefore are they going to be worth as much, but are you working on the basis that you're creating more units? In theory, it should create more cash flow. Then on top of that, you've got the five flats. Now, again, these come with a completely different cash flow model. Now, when we talk about deliverables, when we look at this deal, straight away, plan A can be delivered. Delivered because it's already HMO in an Article 4 area, so great. Plan B, can downgrade it from a 5-bed and a studio flat. There's no guarantee that that's going to be delivered, because if you're going to create it as a self-contained unit, again, you require planning permission. Now, when you look at something like this and you're looking to purchase something like this and one of your plans is to go in for planning permission, the one thing I would strongly suggest to all listeners right now is try and get as much assurance from the local authority that that planning permission is going to be granted. Now, giving you an example, there's lots of ways that you can do this. You can do this via a predetermination. So you can put in an application which costs approximately £100, where you have a consultation with the local authority and you say to them, guys, okay, here's the property, here's what it currently is, here's what I'm intending to do. Can you tell me whether this fits within your guidelines and within your policy, and do you see there's being any issue? Now, one thing I will say, and this is a disclaimer on my part to confirm, that they may turn around and say, yes, we will look at this favourably. That does not confirm that you are 100% going to get planning permission. The reason being is that they can look at it from the council's point of view, they can look at it from a design and an aspect point of view, and how it's going to fit within the environment. The one thing that can't guarantee is that you're not going to get any objections from the local neighbours. I've been there, I've done that. So what would happen is you put your application in, straight away they put their notice out, whether it be in the local paper, whether they stick it on the local lamppost. I know that they still do that. And then they've got a consultation period of approximately 3 weeks. Now, if someone pipes up, and if you're in quite a sensitive area, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but if you're in an area where you've got lots of elderly people, if you're trying to convert a pub, if you're trying to close a pub and convert it, all the locals might come up and say, guys, no, let's save our local trade, let's save our local pub. And then all of a sudden, if you've bought that pub without planning permission and your plan was to generate planning permission, and if the planning permission gets failed, or it gets rejected, or it gets refused, what's your plan B? Are you now going to end up just running a pub? which wasn't ever the intention. So can you see what I talk about what are the deliverables? Because if you are buying a pub and you're trying to go off and convert it into residential, and you can't get that planning permission for residential because all the locals want it to remain as a pub, guess what, guys? You're now stuck in a very dark place. Well, I say that because I've been in that scenario. I've been in that scenario where I bought a piece of land. I bought it I bought it unconditionally. Unconditionally means that I bought it so that I had to buy it outright, so I had to go off and get planning permission thereafter. And I bought the land unconditionally, and then as a result of that, I put in planning permission, and then straight away it got refused. I put in planning permission a few times for a few different schemes, and it got refused. Now, luckily, the piece of land wasn't an expensive piece of land. It was only for a single bill plot. But should that have been a larger piece of land where it had multiple units on which the piece of land can then start charging hundreds of thousands of pounds, you will find yourself in a very difficult position because A, the land is not financeable because it's not producing any income. B, if it's got no planning permission for residential, what are you going to use it for? So are you then going to have to then start going off and looking at different options? Can we get planning permission for a care home? Can we get planning permission for an industrial site? Can we get planning permission for a car park? Something to give it some kind of value. So you've got to look at all those different options. So if plan A doesn't work, what is plan B and plan C? Now, don't be worried, because going back to the original email, and I appreciate that I'm jumping all over the place here, and hopefully you're staying with me. If needs be, listen to it again and again and again so you get this right. So go back to the original email that I've got. So plan A is very deliverable. Plan B, where you want the 5-bed HMO and the studio flat, that is all in the hands of the local authority. So again, it'll be worth having a chat. Plan C, converting it into a 7 or plan C or D, which is a 7 or 8-bed HMO. Again, anything above the 6-bedroom threshold will then require planning permission. So again, we need to have a chat with that local authority to see what their appetite is for HMOs in that location. Do they like them? Do they not like them? And as a result, it could go either way. Again, it could be that that HMO may have been a problem HMO. It may have annoyed all the neighbours, and therefore if you then go and put a planning application in and say, guys, okay, I now had a problem 6-bed HMO, I'm now going to convert it into almost like a problem 8-bed HMO, pretty much guaranteed it's going to get rejected or refused. So you have to look at everything about this. My strong suggestion for this would be to look at your cash flow model for your plan A. If the plan A is deliverable, and in this scenario it being a 6-bed HMO, if the cash flow is sufficient to meet your requirements as a 6-bed HMO, then plan B, C, D, E and F, whatever it may be, are all literally like cherries on the top. Does that make sense? And the reason why I say that is because if plan A really works, if you do get plan B, C, D and E all through planning, you're only going to benefit further from cash flow and also potential capital appreciation. Now, going back to the last point about whether they convert this property into a multiple number, almost like a mini development of self-contained flats, it's very achievable. And from a flats point of view, you then decide, am I going to build it? Am I going to convert it? Am I then going to keep it? Am I going to title split it? Am I going to refinance it? You've got so many different options there. You know, plan A could be that you try and sell it. Plan B could be that if you don't sell it, potentially you then refinance A against one block, or B against multiple individual units. So you've got flat 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. You could refinance against each flat to get all your money back out. And this is what property investors, this is what property developers do on a daily basis in order to recycle their cash. So can you see that when you look at a property, it shouldn't just always be one angle, because one angle may work great for 1 or 2 properties, but it may get you stuck and leaving your cash into some of the properties. So it's all about understanding, if that first plan doesn't go according to plan, what is the second plan and the third plan, because you've got to have that option. If you are looking at buildings where it requires planning permission, one thing that I would suggest is that potentially you speak to the owner and you put an option on the building or on the land. I've got an option currently running on a piece of land. I've got the option for 2 years where we're going in and putting planning permission for 32 bedroom apartments. It's costing me £1 to put the option on, and if I don't get planning, we don't buy the land. The only thing that I've had to pay is professional fees in terms of architect's fees, drawings, etc., and the planning costs. So there are lots of things that you have to take into consideration, but property can be a very secure method of investing, provided that you do it correctly and you're very cautious with it. When I say cautious, going back to my scenario with a piece of land. Now, if I was to buy a piece of land outright for £700,000, which is the purchase price, there's no guarantee that I'm going to get 30 units. So what happens if I only get 20 units? Will that land now be worth the £700,000? What will the gross development value be? And therefore, have I now paid too much for the land? So what I'm doing is actually, in fact, hedging my bets. I'm saying, yes, we'll pay £700,000 based on the fact that we're going to get 32 bedroom apartments. We've got approximately 2 years to go off and get this planning permission. It's cost me £1 to put the option on the land. I'm now just speculating some costs with legals and professional costs. And the same goes with HMO. So it doesn't just have to be on land. It could be on a single let that you're looking to buy in Article 4 area. It could be a house that you're looking to convert into a small block of apartments. And I do this all the time. I try, if I know that I have to go off and get planning permission, I try and put the assurances in place to ensure that I'm going to get planning permission, because the last thing I want to do is purchase a place and find that all my capital is tied up in that one project and not knowing what we can do with that thereafter. Because sometimes in scenarios where we are going off and get planning permission, I don't mind paying a little bit more, or even as considered the market value, knowing that I'm going to be able to add value to that piece of land. Just to give you an example, the gross development value of that land we envisage to be approximately between £3 to £3.2 million. And as a result of that, we've got the land at 700. If I get planning permission granted, straight away that piece of land is going to be worth within the region of £1 million. So I've then got options. Do I build it or do I just sell it with the gain? So can you see that I'm breaking it down every step of the way? I've not bought it. I'm doing my due diligence. I've also now got options. Once I've got planning, do I build it or do I sell it? And then when I do, if I were to build it, do I build it and sell it, or do I build it and refinance it? I've got different cash flow models for every single one of those. So it really is important for you to understand the building, the property, the piece of land, or whatever you're looking at in great detail, and just spend that time on doing that due diligence, looking at all the different cash flow models, looking at all the exit models, and understanding how can you get this out, how can you get out of this if it doesn't all go according to plan. More importantly, how can you get out of it without it financially crippling you? So guys, hopefully you really enjoyed that session. There's some real golden nuggets in there. I really hope that you take them away with you, and more importantly, implement them into your property business. And I want to say thank you to the gentleman that emailed me for the inspiration for today's session. Now, I'd like to ask you a quick favor. If you've got something that you would like me to cover in one of the forthcoming episodes of the Property Rebel, please send us a question. So send it to my assistant, which is admin@arshilahi.com. So it's ARSHELLAHI.com. I'd love to answer these questions. It gives me real inspiration for, and more importantly, motivation to do these podcasts so that I can deliver some real value to you guys. So as always, if you've enjoyed the session, please press like, please press subscribe to the podcast. More importantly, share it with your friends and family. If you like further free content, have you been to my YouTube channel? So I release a new video every Thursday at 4 p.m. where we give again away hints and tips, but obviously with YouTube you get to see the visual. One of them we talked about a HMO where I've converted it, where all the tenants pay all the electricity. These are just one of the videos that I've done. So feel free to go over. Again, please press subscribe and press the notification bell. As always, you can connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and also Clubhouse under the handle of Arsh Ilahi. Feel free to connect with me. Again, if you want to send me a message, I'm always happy to help, always try and respond as and where possible. And then finally, have you downloaded the Property Investor app? Now, when I'm releasing this podcast, it's a real momentous day for the Property Investor app. We've hit 25,000 downloads within the space of 2 years. We're not even 2 years old and we've had 25,000 downloads. If you haven't already downloaded it, I would love for you to do that, because we've just released new updates where you can upload your properties that you're looking to sell as a deal sourcer, or whether you're an estate agent, up onto the app directly. We can then appraise it and have a look at it, and then we can get it live on the app within the space of minutes. We've got lots of new features and I would love your feedback on that. So please go to our website, propertyinvestorapp.co.uk, or if you've got a smartphone, go to the App Store, type in Property Investor and download. It takes 2 minutes to do so, and you'll get approximately 200 deals right in the palm of your hand. So guys, on that note, as always, during these tough and tricky times, I wish you all to be safe, well and happy, and I look forward to speaking to you all very soon. Take care, thank you, and bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.